So what we're going to do now is we're going to create animations for the coins, because instead of having them look static, it would be nice if they were dynamic. And there's kind of two ways in which you can do this. One is by creating animations externally and then importing them to Unity and then using them. The other is to actually create the animations within Unity, which is a more limited option, but it also has some kind of useful features. Overall, the workflow is almost the same in that you need to have an animator, and then you can import or create animations, and then you just want to apply them within the animator, and then you can use scripts to interact with, like triggering an animation or stopping one, and so on and so forth. So let's do that. So if we go to component, and we go to, if we go to window, and then we go to animation, we'll see that there's an animation and animator window, and I have both of them already set up here. So I want to create an animation for my coin. So we can do the following. And let's do the following. So let's first delete our original prefab, because the original prefab won't have the animator, or the animation rather. So we're going to create an animation clip. So let's create a folder called animations. And then we'll call this rotate coin. Now we want to take this this new prefab, which has the animator, and we want to import it into this. Now you'll see that when I reset my prefab, that all the original instances have now been kind of placed in their original locations. So all I really need to do is just move them back. So now you'll see that the prefab comes with the animator. So this is a component that's automatically attached as soon as you create the animation, because in order to play the animation, you need an animator. So now let's go ahead and actually create or modify the animation. So here you'll see that I've already got the rotate coin selected, but now we need to actually build the animation out. So one thing we can do is we can click the object and then add a property. So we can go to transform, because I want to rotate this object on its y-axis. So I can click rotation, and now you'll see that all the information about this object's rotation are here. These are the default values, and it never moves obviously at this moment. Now in order to create an animation or a clip, I need to start the recording feature. So this is now going to record all changes to the object's transform, in this case the rotation. So you'll see that right now nothing is happening because I haven't created any key points or keyframes rather. So I'm gonna create some keyframes. So let's say that I want to rotate this thing in, let's say, 4 different keyframes. So in the first one, I'm gonna have a quarter rotation, something like that, at 0.1 seconds. I want to do another rotation about 0.25 here. Actually, I would want to do this first, and then at 0.3 I would like to create this, and then at 0.4 I want to complete my rotation, which is around here. And you'll see by default, if I play this, it's reversing in direction after completing the animation, because by default it returns to its original keyframe. You'll see that the value here, 93 degrees, is the same as the starting point. So I can just go ahead and delete this, and now I have an animation that doesn't loop. It actually finishes the full rotation. So we have our animation complete here. Now I will just quickly show you what the animator does. And in the animator component, you'll see that there's a controller category, and it's already got a controller called coin. So if we open this, you'll see that there are a couple of important things going on here. So this is what the animation controller looks like. So at the very start, in our case, it's a very simple controller. So we have an entry point, and as soon as we enter this, we have an animation that we're playing, and that's it. If you had a more complex set of animations, you would have, like, for instance, 3 or 4 animations that you can transition between. So for instance, I can create a random state, and I can, for instance, say, let's make a transition from, let's say I want to do an animation, so maybe I rotate the coin once, and then I do something else, I can create a new state and then maybe have it do something else here. And this could contain a different animation, for instance. So right now we don't need to worry about that. We just need one. We just have our one animation. Another thing I want to quickly mention is that if we go to the rotate coin within the animator, you'll see that we can set some other pieces of information like the speed at which the animation occurs. And by default, the animation is already looping. So here you'll see that if I click my rotate, if I double click, you'll see that it's already looping the animation. So that is essentially what's going to happen. So if I now hit play, you'll see that the coins are rotating. However, you'll notice that they're all rotating without any kind of offset. So it's kind of strange to see all these different coins kind of rotating at the exact same, manner. And that's because their animations begin at the same time. So we can do all sorts of things to kind of throw this off. For instance, we can add a delay to the animation, or we can just disable the controller and re-enable the controller. So I'm going to do that right now. So I want to be able to see some dynamic rotations that are not identical to each other. So I can create a little script to do that. So let's say random rotation, or random or coin random offset. Oops, I misspelled that. So let's do that again. Coin rotation offset. Okay. So one thing you'll notice in our prefab, so if we go back to our prefab, you'll see that there is the animator, and it's already kind of enabled at the very start of the prefab. So what we can do is that we can retrieve this element. So just like any other component, we can retrieve this component. So we can say private animator, animator. And then at the very start of our script, we can get the animator, right? So this script, we need to attach it somewhere, obviously. So let's say I attach it to my coin prefab. So that means that all my prefab objects or instances will have this. So I can say get component and get me the animator that is attached to this object, which is this animator right here. Okay, and at the very start, let's say I'm going to set it to false. So I don't want it to be enabled, so I want it to be deactivated rather. Now, in order to create, or in order to randomly kind of offset or shift this offset, I need to do something. So one thing you can do is you can use coroutines, and I'll just briefly show you what a coroutine does. So if I go into Unity documentation, so coroutines allow you to kind of call a function and then have it kind of operate on the side, and then when after a few frames, or let's say you have a certain time limit, you can kind of run this coroutine on the side. So in our case, let's say that we want to randomly instantiate or randomly enable our animator. So we can use a coroutine for that. So in order to do that, let's create a IEnumerator object, or function rather. And we're going to call it delay. And the way that you kind of deal with coroutines is that you're supposed to yield a return. And so in our case, we can yield a return at a random point in time. So we can say yield return new, wait for seconds. And so this function essentially means that the coroutine will stop after a certain amount of time. And you can specify, for instance, after 1 second, for 1 second do nothing, and then whatever's underneath this will execute once the delay function is called. Or you can do it in a random fashion. So I can say random. So randomly generate a number between 0 and let's say 1 second. And once you randomly wait for this period to kind of elapse, you can then re-enable the animator. By doing this, we're going to have different times at which the animations or the animators are re-enabled for each coin, and then we'll see an offset. So let's see this in action. Oops. I need to, right. So the reason that nothing's happening is because I forgot to call my coroutine. So in order to start a coroutine, we actually need to use this method called start coroutine, and then we need to specify the name of the coroutine. So delay. So now, once we disable the animator, we're going to start the coroutine, which will delay execution for some random period of time between 0 and 1 second, and then we'll re-enable our animation or animator, and then we'll see the animation appear. So each time we do this, we're going to see a slightly different result. So you'll see that at least 2 of these are offset now. And the larger the delay, the more the offset, and also depending on how many keyframes you have, or how many keyframes you have, this will be different as well.